Each one of us is called to be. Where we sit in this room is not an accident. Where each and every one happens to be sitting with the people around you, it is not an accident, it is a divine appointment. You believe that? There is a calling for you to become more, to share more, to be compassion, to be kindness, to be love, to be a bridge builder. When the world is putting up walls, we knock them down and we say we belong to each other. As cells within the body of the one, cells within the body of God, we are called to be the bridge builders. And so there's a recognition when we come back together and we look to the left and the right and we say, I'm here to be seen. I'm here to be seen. And I see you. There are organizations and there are communities and ethnic groups around the planet that's how they greet each other. It's not a, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. It is a sincere spiritual exercise of people coming together to be seen. And so we're going to practice that right now. I'm going to invite you, you'll say to the person in front of you, I am here to be seen. Let that be a moment. And then the person will say, and I see you. And I am here to be seen. And then the response back is, I see you. That's what our chaplains do. That's what the song was talking about. I am called to see you fully, to accept you fully and completely. You know, all the churches around the country always put that on their sign and their marquee, all are welcome. And the reality is, all are welcome on the outside doesn't necessarily mean all are welcome on the inside. In this church, it does. In this church, you bring a gift and a light and a magnificence and a wholeness in the unique way that God expresses as you. No exceptions. And so I'm going to invite you, to 2 or 3 people around you, to actually have that exchange as a foundation for the house. You're going to say, I'm here to be seen. And then the response, I see you, and I am here to be seen, and I also see you. Stand up. You got 30 seconds to get 2 or 3 people. Find somebody you don't know. Find somebody you've never met before. Okay, come on back. And so with one powerful voice, let us say that statement together. I am here to be seen. I see you. And I am also here to be seen. A simple phrase that puts some smiles on our faces, but it's much more than a simple phrase. It is a way of being. It is a way of walking through the planet, on planet Earth, recognizing that we, for a long time, have forgotten that we belong to each other. And it's a simple way of recognizing that at a deeper level, we don't have all of these different labels that separate us. We have one spirit and one life. Winnie the Pooh was sitting on a bench when Christopher Robin came bounding up. And Pooh said, you're just in time for the very best part of the day. And Christopher Robin said, what time is that? And Pooh said, it is the time when you and me become we. Oh. This is we time. Whether it be on a Sunday morning in a service, down in the fellowship hall, in one of our many beautiful classes, on Wednesday night at meditation, whether it be in one of the ministries and the social groups that get together, it is we time. And at once a year, we have our annual meeting, and we get to talk about what's happening with the we. But today, I want to talk that community matters, not just once a year. I want a consciousness to come into the door every time you come in of we and not me. And I've noticed that New Thought, you may have noticed this too, has a tendency to live a lot in the me consciousness. And that's an important thing. It's an important step. But there's an evolutionary process that I'm calling forth from me to we. Some people come here for the very first time, come into this place, and are hearing for the first time that they're not a worm of the dust, that they're not broken, they don't need to be fixed, that they truly are welcome here for who they are on earth in their unique and beautiful way. And I celebrate that today. Not just on the annual meeting day, but every single moment we get together and realize that Larry and Richard are one. Richard and Linda and Jay, we're all just one in a great tapestry. That's a blessed privilege, isn't it? And sometimes, we take blessed privileges for granted, and we don't realize how incredibly blessed we are. How incredibly blessed we are. It's a blessed privilege, but it's also a sacred responsibility. Here comes the other shoe. On this annual meeting day, I want to talk about the blessing, but also the sacred responsibility. It says in the book of Psalms, chapter 133, let's read it together. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell together in unity. The Older Testament didn't have the word sisters in there, so that is an edit from my heart because I believe it was a mistake. There might need to be edited. It is pleasant, isn't it? It is pleasant most of the time. Some of the time it's not so pleasant. I got really emotional with some of the chaplains up here, and it was because there's a history. There's a history that when things were going great, they were in service. There's a history that when things were not going so great, and this church and this minister was on his knees, they were also there with the same consciousness. It was continuous, the unbroken awareness that God is in the dark and the light. God is in the human experience and the spiritual experience. But it takes challenge and requirements. What are the reasons someone would want to be part of a community? Why would you want to do that? In our metaphysical teachings, isn't it our main goal in life to strive for complete independence from any external reality and to gain a total inward realization free from any human attachment? On the surface, community looks like an attachment to an external reality, doesn't it? So you can all go home. Thank you so much for coming today. No, I'm just kidding, really, don't leave. Yes, our job as spiritual seekers and our job as metaphysicians is to find heaven within. It's the only place it's going to be found, is within. But I believe that community is an essential stepping stone to finding that God within. The external and the internal are partners. The human and the divine are partner experiences, and both are necessary for growth in both areas. This is what Matthew Fox, he's one of my favorite authors and favorite writers, had to say about this idea. Please read it with me. While there is something deeply personal about the paths we choose to walk down, spirituality is also radically communitarian. Pathways beckon us out of their beauty, but they beckon us, not just me. A path is a way of solidarity, a way of sharing beauty with all others on the way. It is also sharing of the pain and struggle with all the others along the way. What I surmise from this is, yes, follow your path. Follow your individual path and align yourself with the God of your understanding, the expression of your understanding. Then share it with others, that they may benefit from what you have gained. You see, there is a moreness that happens when you share your path and I share my path. There's a greater path that emerges, one where there's more wisdom, there's more light, there's more love, there's more God, there's more goodness. Deepen it. Deepen your path, expand it, enlarge it, and enhance it by sharing it with others. The pool gets deeper and wider. Share it in a community that others may benefit, learn, and grow from your joy and from your pains and your difficulties. That means sitting down at the table and putting our ears on as much as our mouths. Share your journey and vice versa. Be willing to sit and put your ears on and listen. The joys are made more intense when we do them together. The trials are lessened when we share them together. That's what community is about. Personally, I don't believe that a complete and total inner realization of God can ever happen without community. There's a missing component. But of course, I'm sure you're like me. I find it so much easier to get along with people when I'm alone. I find it so much easier to keep my peace when I'm not dealing with other people's personalities, yes? I want to share a little bit of my background. When I was a kid, I had a dream I was going to play third base for the San Francisco Giants. I was going to be good. And I grew up on a 40-acre ranch, and I'd go out for hours on end with a tennis ball. And I'd go out to that walnut orchard, and I could knock walnuts off of trees at 50 paces like a champ. Poof, bam, the walnuts would fall off the trees. Or I'd go to the barn, and I'd throw that ball way up high on the top of the barn, and I would catch those fly balls just like Willie Mays. Or I'd throw it against the side of the barn, and I would shag those grounders just like Willie Stargell from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I could put a little strike zone on that barn and that tennis ball. Strike one, strike two, strike three every time. I was really, really good. At least I thought I was. Then I signed up to play baseball. And I got into a game. Guess what I found out? I sucked. I stunk. I could not strike anybody out. I was so afraid of hitting the batter that everything was outside over and over and over. And then when I said, no, I'm going to do it, I would hit the batter. They were walking around the bases when Burdick was on the mound. Dropped fly balls, easy pop-up flies. One of the most embarrassing things as a baseball player is you go down to shag the grounder, and it goes right behind you, right between your legs. At that moment, that was a decision moment for me. A moment of choice that I value as part of my spiritual path before I even heard the word God. Go back into the walnut orchard and live under the pretense that I was the next Willie Mays. Or stick it out. Stick it out through the embarrassing grounders, the embarrassing strikeouts, and the moments of embarrassment on the mound. And that's exactly what I chose. And I am grateful that I did choose that. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about baseball. Now, I never did become Willie Mays. That's why I'm sitting here today. But I got a heck of a lot better at the game than I ever would have been had I gone back to the walnut orchard and lived under the pretense that I was good. I learned a lot about baseball, but I learned a lot about life. I learned a lot about me. And I hope that people watching me on the team, in the stands, learned a little bit about life as well. Here's that kid again, getting up to the plate. And everybody was praying that maybe he'll hit it this time. And I did. I remember my first home run. It was celebrated by a community that thought it was never even possible that that skinny little kid could hit a home run. And by the way, the bases were loaded at the time. Thanks for living in my glory days. I made friends, lifelong connections that I have to this day that helped me grow, and friends that hopefully benefited from knowing me. It was a proving ground. It was a community testing ground. It was a learning environment. That's why I do community today. In Proverbs, it says this. Let's read this next scripture together. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Relationship and community refines us. And I stand here today as a testimony that I am more because of the moments where we have shared the intimate, dark nights of the soul. I stand here as a testimony to the moments where we shared joy that became more intense. I share moments in spiritual community where another strikeout and you sit on the bench, or the dropped fly ball and you go sit on the bench. There's always tomorrow. That's what they say in baseball. There's always tomorrow. And there was a tomorrow. And there was a grand slam. It was the only one I hit. There are moments of triumph and moments of victory that can only happen when we allow ourselves to learn about ourselves by learning about ourselves. Somebody calling us out. Iron will sharpen iron. Relationship will sharpen people. You know, you put a handful of jagged, as a kid, I was really into the earth. I was a pagan heart, even as a kid. My greatest playmates were the ants, as I made little cities for them. But I'd take rocks, and I had a rock tumbler. And you put a bunch of jagged rocks into a rock tumbler. Anybody ever done that? And you turn it on. It is loud. It is really loud. It is tumultuous, and it is churning. And you think, how in the world can anything happen here? But if you leave it long enough, what happens? The jagged stones that were put into the tumbler become smooth and become polished. The rocks come together and polish each other. And all the ragged edges begin to melt away. All that which is not true, not needed for the smooth stone, begins to fade away, and something beautiful happens. That's what we do here. That's why community is important. We free ourselves of the rough edges, the personality, and we get to the meat, to the heart of the matter, and you only get to the heart of the matter and the heart of the person if you're willing to tumble long enough with them. There are colleagues. I have colleagues that live in cities outside of here where everybody is of a certain mindset. And they pride themselves that everybody thinks the same way. Isn't it wonderful? And then they challenge me. Why don't you take a stand from your platform? Why don't you take a stand for what you believe? Because I don't want to create a community where everybody thinks alike. If we all think alike, then you're all unnecessary to me. And if you think the way I think, I'm unnecessary to you. There's something beautiful, and I'm proud that we can come together in complete and total disagreement and tumble around together, and at the end of the day, prove why we exist as a church that's peace and love and harmony and joy and oneness. That's our mission, and we tumble around to get there. And we have embarrassing moments where we forget and we name call because of some political BS. But the reality is we are called to be compassion. We are called to be love. We are called to find oneness no matter how hard it is or how long we have to tumble or how many times we have to strike out. And so I cried when a chaplain is up here who, in the midst of this church being on its knees, said, I'm called to be. I don't waver in my consciousness. I don't waver in seeing the God of all people. All people. We become smoother, more connected and grounded, awake and aware as a result of what we do here. And I am damn proud of that. What does it require? What does that require of us? What is it? Come on, call it out. What does it require of you to be in a community where we don't all agree? In fact, somebody over here completely disagrees with somebody over there. Courage, compassion. What else? Listening. Patience. It takes all of these things. All of these divine ideas exist here. And we must be willing to bring the divine ideas into the tumbler, into the sanctuary, into the room, into the consciousness, or we never get the result. Many people decide, it's just easier to go back to the walnut orchard and have us and them. That's just easier. Well, us and them is not going to save the planet. Us and them is not going to heal the planet. It's not going to heal any divide. That means sitting down and being willing to listen, be willing to share in love, and being willing to be refined in the tumbling. All our differences, whether physical, mental, spiritual, political, emotional, they're all superficial. It's all effects. When we come together with a common desire and intention, we polish the individual edges and create a harmony that is a demonstration of what can happen at the macrocosm. What we do here is a very small group of people, but make no mistake about it, a small group of people is the only thing that's ever changed the world, and I want to change the world. So I joke sometimes. I say from this platform, what we do here is save the world. The world needs us. The world needs our consciousness. The world needs people who are willing to tumble around, no matter how dark or difficult it gets, to make the world a more loving place. It's an incredible paradox. Tumbling creates softness. Tumbling creates openness. Tumbling is a method to get connected to the God of my own being. There is an expansiveness within me, within the human race, a both and experience that is necessary. Human experience creates spiritual consciousness. In the Buddhist tradition, they have the three most important things. The Buddhist scriptures they're expansive. But they say there are three jewels, the three most important things. Who knows what they are? The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Those teachings, the Buddha is the teacher. Important. The Dharma is the teaching. It is important. But included in those three is the Sangha, the spiritual community. It is essential. So if Buddha felt that it was important, it might be a little more important than what we have called it to be. One of the things that's happened, the repercussions of COVID, And I'm just going to be full disclosure here. I'm in a little bit of grief. And we think, oh, well, COVID's all done. Half this congregation don't sit in here anymore. Half this congregation maybe chooses to watch online at 4 o'clock on Tuesday in their pajamas. I hope you do. But let me tell you, your presence is missed. Your presence is essential. And yes, this is beautiful, and we're reaching people across the country and across the ocean. That's a wonderful thing. We take that energy. But if you can put your body into the room, put your body into the game, you're much more effective in right field or in left field or at third base because you're here. Because you're not just here to get. I remember a moment when somebody in this church said, it's just not doing it for me anymore. It's just not doing it for me anymore. And my wife, in all of her wisdom, said, well, why don't you volunteer? Why don't you come down and help with the middle school kids? That person got her church back because she said, she moved from what am I going to get to what am I going to give? An understanding that the Sangha is important. When we get, we also give. And that circle of energy uplifts everybody, not only in the church, but the entire human race is uplifted because I see you. That child needed to know that somebody saw them, accepted them, loved them, embraced them with their quirky. And let me tell you, middle school kids are quirky. They're unique, and they are beautiful, holy, sacred beings trying to figure life out. That's what we do here. We're all little middle school kids trying to figure it out. And how blessed are we to have a group of people that say, I see you as you try to figure it out. Let's wrestle, let's tussle, let's tumble, and let's figure it out together. That is sacred. And I don't want once a year to give the community talk when there's an annual meeting. I want every time you come into this room to go, I'm here to be seen. And I'm here to see you, Jay Schofield. I'm here to see you, Jenny Langer. And to go, boy, let's wrestle. And let's figure this out together. That is the trip to oneness. It's not hanging out at home in the baseball field, knocking walnuts off the trees. Your gift is essential. You are an emissary of God. Rabbi Lawrence Kushner wrote this. This speaks to my heart. Please read it with me. Everyone carries with them at least one and probably many pieces to someone else's puzzle. Sometimes they know. Sometimes they don't. And when you present your piece, which is worthless to you alone, to another, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not, you are a messenger from the Most High. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you know, and sometimes you don't. You are a teacher. You are a mirror, you're a jagged rock, you're an angel, you are a minister. And you're cheating yourself of the blessed opportunity of service and of love and light if you're only coming in here with your one piece of puzzle as the only one that matters. Clearly says it's worthless to you alone. Feel safe. I got my little piece. I'm in the walnut orchard, me and Willie Mays. And then I bring it in, and it's like, oh, we're going to have to work to make this fit. I have a piece in this community, but I am only one piece. Look around the room. I see you. Every piece matters. And I want to speak to those who haven't been in this room in 3 years. Your piece matters. This is the biggest crowd we've had in a while here. It's annual meeting time, so we'll go see what the board of directors is doing to make the church a wonderful place. And they are, you're going to hear that. But don't wait till next year, annual meeting, to put your body in the room. I know I'm speaking to the choir, but I want you to know that the gift that you are, I behold you, not just the chaplains. I cry when I see the faces of people in this community who step up over and over and over and over again. And my life is richer for that. I honor the beautiful face of God that gets into the tumbler with me and says, let's figure this out. We have another puzzle to figure out, another challenge to figure out. I am a better man. I'm a better minister. I'm a better human being for the tumbling, and I hope that you are as well. There is a stage in human and spiritual development. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. When we begin to be as much interested in others as in ourselves. This is a stage in human development. As much concerned with others' lots as our own. When this stage of development is reached, by some miraculous transition, the word we replaces the word me. That's the only thing that's going to save the macrocosm and bring us back together, and it's the only thing that will keep this church as strong as it is today. We are all a crucial piece in the well-being of not only this community, but in the individual lives of this congregation and every single congregant here. The we that is this community is not just a higher stage of development. It is the very means by which we demonstrate our faith, unity. I'm there when it's easy. I'm there when it's not easy. I'm there when I've been up all night wrestling with your opinion. And I'm there when we completely and totally agree. Because at the end of the day, I am there. I am there. It says in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. I don't quote that book very often. It's a bit of an acid trip if you read it. But let's read that one together. 2 are better than 1, for if they fall, one will lift up their fellow. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes, said this: together, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. I'm in this for you, not just for me. I'm in this for the person who came in for the first time and the person who's been through 30 years in this church, holding the pillars up, volunteering, and supporting. According to science, the entire universe and all its contents was originally contained within a single point of infinite density. Science has said this. A singularity, a oneness. And some kind of big bang happened, and all the contents of that single point, a sea of neutrons, protons, electrons, photons, formed the entire universe. You and me and all of us and every community around here and every belief system is part of an expansive singularity. We are all made up of the same stuff. Science would say it's star stuff. Unity, we call it God stuff. I don't care what you call it, but I want you to recognize it and to see it, the unbroken awareness of the presence of God. When I look into Nita and Sylvia's face, I see the face of God. When I see Donna and Mike Stott, I see the face of God. Kimberly Watkins, you are an angel in our midst. And I want to be here to tell you even when I'm tired, because I know then you will be there for me to tell me when I'm tired. And somehow we demonstrate to the world what is possible. In a system of duality that is tearing this earth down, we become the change we want to see. We become the conduit for a greater reality. What we do here seems so small, but what we do here is absolutely necessary. It's necessary to the world that we are living in. We're all a part of a magnificent singularity called God. And so I want you to do it one more time before we go into meditation, to find somebody and to maybe say it at a different level. I am here to be seen. Alan, I see you. And I am also here to be seen. Make no mistake about it, what we do here is essential. Turn to somebody, maybe a couple people, and sacredly and mindfully and purposefully see the face of God.